Welcome to the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show, where we bring enlightened entrepreneurs, coaches, and influencers together to discuss cutting-edge topics for the world of relationships, culture, business, and spirituality. Here's your host, Max Anjanetta Jones.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Carol's Courage to Confidence segment of the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show. Now, you guys that have been following me, I'm your weather girl. So make sure when you talk to us in the comments, and we want you to talk to us in the comments, tell us what the weather's like where you are. I am so excited today. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's a Chamber of Commerce day here. Everybody wants to move to Florida, right? Because this is where people come to vacation. But it's a beautiful, hot, sunny day. I'm excited to have my two guests today. We're going to have a great show and would love your participation. We have Miss Eileen and Jonathan here. We might have another guy popping in. We're not sure where he is, but we'll let him in if he pops in. So Eileen, tell everybody where you're chiming in from and a little bit about what you're up to in the world.
Hi, I'm Eileen. I'm from Australia, so I'm sitting in the mountains in the hilltop area of the Southern Highlands in New South Wales. We in the world, what am I doing? I do all sorts of things. I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm a coach, I'm an intuitive reader, healer. I do all the things for all the people.
Awesome. And you don't know this, but you and Jonathan have hypnotherapy in common. So this is going to be really awesome and fun for me. But I forgot to tell you, I actually lived in Engadine outside of Sydney when I graduated college. Yeah. I've lived in Australia. Yeah. Jonathan, tell us where you're chiming in from and go ahead and tell us what the weather's like before you tell us what you did.
Yeah, well, the weather, I look out the window right now and yep, it's still snowing. The apparent beast from the east, as the British media have called it. So yeah, I'm Jonathan Royle. I'm here in Manchester, England. And as you correctly pointed out, I do have the commonality with Eileen of having an involvement in the world of hypnotherapy. Although I suspect we may have slightly different views on things, possibly, or maybe not, but because I'm somewhat outspoken in the industry, hence my latest book's called Shitnosis, helping you get over the shit in your life and get your shit together. I'm also dubbed by the British media as the British bad boy of hypnosis. And where I differ is I will, if necessary, I will use illusion and trickery and deception, albeit with positive intent, to help people get to where they need to go. So, prime example being, you've heard of Uri Geller, I guess, one of the most famous psychics in the world. He was known for spoon fork bending. I've got two here. This, hang on, let's get this right. The one that's highest in the air, we're going to call A, and this one down here, the lower one is B. Okay. So, Carol, do you want A or B?
A.
A is the one that metaphorically you get. I would hand it you through the screen if I could, but I can't. So that leaves me with the other one. What Uri Geller would do is, some would say, use trickery to harness people's motivation, but it doesn't matter whether it's tricks or real, as long as the end result is that people feel empowered to achieve their peak potential. And for example, if you were all to think, and we were talking about weather before, Carol, so think of the sun. The sun is orange, which is a combination of the colours red and yellow. So it's one of the most powerful colours, orange. If you just focus, I'll try and get really close to the camera here. Focus the colour orange towards the screen. And if people start to think of the word bend and start to think of the word heat and melt, and if you do that, bizarrely, I know the light shining on the spoon, but actually, yeah, it starts to look as though, could be an optical illusion, but it starts to look as though it's starting to get a little bit plasticky. See that? It looks as though it's starting to bend.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's just an illusion. It's not really. It's actually a solid spoon. But actually, if you think now, heat, sun, melt, what happens is this. Hopefully, it starts to melt and bend. Melt and bend, using the power of your minds focused together as energy. Literally anything is possible, to the point where it gets, ow, that hot, I can't hold it anymore, and it actually snaps like that.
So was that trickery?
You can decide for yourself. You know, Uri Geller, this year, it's 50 years since Uri Geller appeared on a TV show and the world went crazy. And there's not been a year where he hasn't been featured in world media. All I will say, and this is an honestly truthful hand on heart, I was taught how to bend spoons in person, face to face, by Uri Geller himself. How it's done? Well, you know, I can genuinely tell you that when he says he uses his mind, but more importantly, he gets the viewers, you, to focus your energies, that is true. Definitely. But that's not necessarily to say that there isn't trickery going on as well. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But energy, is anyone who works in the energy field will know, can be as simple sometimes as just walking into a room and you suddenly feel like you can cut the atmosphere, or you walk into a bar maybe and you go, I better get out of here, it's going to kick off, there's going to be a fight, and invariably there is. We all naturally have abilities to sense things, but that doesn't make it paranormal or supernatural. It's just something natural that not everyone's necessarily consciously aware of. In the same way as the way spoons get melt and bend, well, some people are consciously aware of how it's done, but everybody's capable of it. Of course they are, yeah.
Well, everything is one thing, right? Everything is energy. Everything on this earth is energy. The atoms just move so fast that we can't see them, like in this table.
Yeah.
So, Miss Ellen, tell us a little bit about how you use hypnotherapy with your clients to get the results you're looking for.
I actually had a lady come through our house yesterday, and she was saying, "Oh, so what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I change people's minds using their own words." And she went,
Yeah.
"Pardon?" I said, I change people's minds. And she's kind of looked at me and said, "I'm a hypnotherapist and I'm a coach, and I've done NLP training, and I've done all this extra training." And she's gone, "I value houses." I've gone, I know, it's kind of sucky, isn't it? This is so much better. So yeah, I've worked with people to stop smoking, but that's not where my passion is. My passion is to actually help people rediscover who they are and what their purpose is and what their power is, because so often we just get in the process of living life with the habits and patterns that we've had our whole lives, and we forget that we have innate divine wisdom and power, and we forget how to use it. And so what I do is I go back in there and unlock a few of the boxes they've got locked up and help them to kind of blossom into who they are.
That's awesome. This question goes to both of you. Do you or can you use hypnotherapy effectively and successfully to get someone to love themselves better?
That's the key to it all. There is no issue.
Well,
it doesn't matter whether it's...
Talk to me about that.
It doesn't matter. I mean, my entire book, I'm sorry to plug it again, but this book is about one subject only, and that is that which you've just mentioned. Because it doesn't matter whether you've got a habit, addiction, fear, or phobia, whether you suffer from panic attacks, anxiety, depression, or whether you've got a health complaint where you're not fully healing as quickly as you could because you're feeling like shit, hence I call it shitnosis. At the end of the day, it comes down to what's operating in your personal laptop computer. And if there's any negative shit in there, or mental viruses, shall we say, like, you know, when your computer gets infected, then there's going to be something out of balance, out of sync. And the way I put it is that you said they've got to feel better about themselves too, right? But if a person felt perfect about themselves and was the perfect them that they could be at full potential, which they can eventually be, you know, Eileen does that for people, I do that for people, but then they would not have habits, addictions, fears, or phobias. You can't have them both, okay? The thing is, every human being needs to feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, and valued. They sound very similar, but some of them are relevant to self-esteem, some to self-confidence, some to self-image, some to self-control, aka willpower. So if there's ever been any imbalance in any of those areas or any lacking, and it'll be different for everyone, might be an imbalance in one area. Some people it's 2, some it's 3. Any imbalance low will have a knock-on effect on their self-image, self-esteem, self-control, and the other one I mentioned before. That will then have a negative knock-on effect on their self-love, self-worth, self-respect, and positive selfishness. And by positive selfishness, I mean you've got to look after yourself first to actually be able to be any good to help others. And if there's any negative effect or imbalance on any of them, ultimately it's going to impact on their self-identity, who they are. And it may feel like there's a gap, metaphorically. So then that gap needs filling, whether it's through religion, doing too much exercise, eating to fill it up, smoke screen through smoking, the metaphor of drinking to drown it out, or drugs to totally escape it. I know these are metaphoric things, but that's kind of a way of putting into words what's happening psychologically. So the only way to overcome habits, addictions, fears, phobias, or anything really, is to make that person feel whole again. And the only way you can get to the person feeling whole is to help them feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, and valued, so that their self-confidence, self-image, self-esteem, and self-control balance out, so that their self-respect, self-love, self-worth, and positive selfishness balance out, so that it fills that gap, they feel whole, and they fulfill their full potential. So yeah, both Eileen and myself, and I'm sure she'll agree with me, I'll hand over to her now. It's the key to everything we do.
100%.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about.
And that's not just the ex-teacher talking.
Say that again.
I said 100%, and that's not just the ex-teacher talking.
Like, hey, I'm going to get a green tick, not a red one. Excellent.
So there's been a lot of talk. It's happened on a lot of dating sites that NLP can be used for not so good things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, Eileen, give me your thought on that. I've done a little bit of NLP. I'm not certified in NLP, but if someone came to you and you knew you could help them, you knew. And as soon as they heard NLP, they go, oh, no, that's evil. You know, I hear people use that for bad. How would you address that and get them over that hump so they could trust you because you know that you can help them?
Do you know what it's about? So neuro being the brain, linguistic being language, right? It's using your words to change your mind. And reality is that anything can be used for bad. Religion, not to get, political or anything. Oh, politics. Like, let's be honest here. Anything can be used for good or bad. It's about using your powers for good instead of evil. I'm teaching my kids that because they're way too smart for their ages. Do you want to have the end result? Like, what is the end result that you would like? So those words that you use right now are exactly what I'm going to use to help you change your mind. I'm not going to be using my words. I'm not going to be using my beliefs. I'm going to be using your words to help you get to where you want to be. But to get there, we have to change something that happened way back early in your life. Okay. We just got to change your view of what happened early in your life.
Fascinating. I've never heard anybody say it quite like that. So that's why I'm thinking about that. I'm going to use your words to change you.
Let's not forget that NLP is just a name, neuro-linguistic programming. At the end of the day, it's just a different name for hypnosis. It's a different name for Tibetan mind control. It's a different name for meditation. All of these things, it doesn't matter what they're called, when they work with positive intent to get people positive outcomes, they all work for the same reasons, which is ultimately the placebo effect is a large element of it. And another large element is giving people a safe environment to change, permission to change, and allowing them to let go of all that negative shit, hence the name of the book, or all that self-blame, shame, guilt, and regret that they may have been carrying around. Yes, it can be used negatively. Yes, there are people using it negatively. And I don't know whether Eileen will agree with it, but she kind of has alluded to it. So I'm guessing she will actually, buttering one of the rare, what I would call the rare 2.5% of truly honest and an open-minded hypnotherapist in the world. And the statement I'm going to make is this: With hypnosis is just communication. It's words, like Eileen's already said. And words and used in correct psychological structures can be both positive and negative, to the point where if you know what you're doing, if you had negative intent, you can make people say and do things that totally contradict their morals and values, to the point where you can make people murder other people. And in fact, the CIA had a thing called MK Ultra after the war that proved that beyond any reasonable doubt. And I worked on a program behind the scenes with an American hypnotist, Tom Silver, Brainwashed to Kill, where they went out and did it with hidden cameras to prove it could be done again. And in fact, in 2019, I made a documentary called Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. It's time for the sleepwalking zombies to wake up, where we go into politics, like Eileen said, religion, the education, or as I call it, indoctrination system, and all different areas of life, because everything is about programming people and controlling them. It's just that, fortunately, the majority of people are doing it with positive intent. Sadly, Law, yeah, you do have to be aware. There's people out there that don't have our best interest at heart.
Exactly. So, Eileen, if someone came to you, like me, and I said, I've never been able to be hypnotized, and I think it's not that people haven't tried. For me, I think it's a trust issue. Like, right, it's a control and a trust issue. How would you get me over that hump?
The reality is that you will, if you are willing to go on the journey and go through the process, if your desire for that outcome is strong enough to get rid of all the garbage that you're trying to get rid of, and you're willing to go on the journey, it will work for you. Second point, you can't be controlled if you don't want to be. So, you know, when I did my training,
I'll just disagree there and say, yes, you can, but it is not legal or ethical in most countries to use those techniques. However, if somebody was to come to me and say they wanted to get off, say, heroin, and yet they were not fully 100% of the way at the pivot point, if they'd given their consent for any technique on the planet to be used, then yes, there are severe psychological trauma techniques you can use with hypnosis that will make people do things even when they don't want to.
Most of us don't use those techniques, though.
Good.
You know.
Well, if the client wants a result and that's the only way of getting it, I'd say it'd be unethical not to use it.
Now, this begs a question then. When you have clients, do your clients sign contracts with you?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you use one of those wild tactics that you just talked about,
they've already consented to it when they sign up. Otherwise, I wouldn't agree to treat them in the first place. They come to me, I tell them it's one session, that's it, they're cured, or the money back. And there's no way that I'm going to waste my time seeing somebody one-to-one if there's any risk that it's not going to work and I'm going to end up having to refund them because life's too short. So they're signing up front that any technique that will not cause them any physical or emotional or psychological long-term harm, but may in the moment of that session, if required, take them to some, I suppose the only word I can use is traumatic places, then yeah, if it comes to it, they've already consented to it. However, the vast majority of the time, that's not necessary.
And so that brings up another question I had, and I'll go to Eileen with this one first. What is your typical, if there is an average, time that a client works with you to achieve those results? Like in my program, I tell my client it's a minimum of 6 months for my clients. And many of them get great results in 6 months. And then other ones stay 12, 18 months, depending on what we're working on. So I've seen that in my experience. So in your experience, what is the average time that a client signs up and works with you, Eileen?
It depends on what they've come to me for. So I can do a one and done scenario. Most of the time, though, people want to book in and stay with me for as long. Like I've got a group that I run. If they buy the biggest package, I've got a Facebook group. They can come once a month, and I do a half-hour session once a month. They then have the option to stay in that group and have those coaching sessions or book in, because a lot of the times they'll come back to me and go, we did really well with this particular mindset, confidence, whatever issue, but now I'm a little bit on this side having this particular problem. Is there something you've got for that? No, yes. But 12 months, the last 12 months, 9 out of 12 months, I had asthma problems with all the issues with the weather down here. And where we moved to is a more damp environment. And so my chest and my asthma was playing up for a lot of last year. And so I just started recording everything on my good days. And so now people can literally go onto my website, sign up to a program, and depending on the level they purchase into, they can then join the Facebook group themselves. Do you know what I mean? So I have clients who have been in that group for the last 3 years. Okay. But then I also have clients who've come to me for one session and gone, thank you so much, we're done here.
Wow, so that's incredible. It just depends on one and done. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what I want you to fix in me for one and done. I want to think about that. So what was the name of your book again? I'm just kidding. Don't hold it up again.
That's what you need, actually. You don't even bother booking a session with me. There's people with issues. Just 17 books, £15 sterling on Amazon. The fact is, the therapy sessions are in here because there's QR codes as you go along. So it teaches you the tapping techniques for things. It teaches you the breathing techniques. It teaches you the energy havening stuff. You don't have to buy anything else. Don't even bother booking a session with me. Just get the book, because you won't need a session with me then, ever. Simple, guaranteed.
Even someone who's addicted to heroin.
Oh, yeah. The exact techniques that got me off my cocaine addiction from when I was a teenager. It's all covered in the book. I was addicted to alcohol, cocaine, sex, gambling, the old trip. Been there, done it. Everything that got me off it's in this book. And I categorically will state there's not another book on the planet that's got this much in it because of the QR codes. There's no upsell, by the way, at the back of the book. There's nothing like, oh, go on this, join this program and I want you addicted to me. And no, the whole philosophy of this is to give people the tools to empower them so they can be free, independent, fully self-sufficient and fully balanced out on all those emotional pillars I talked about before, so that they won't need outside help, assistance or pat on the back, because the only person they should need a pat off the back of is themselves.
I was going to do that. Yeah. So, Eileen, a question comes to mind when you were talking about, sometimes you have to go way back. You're taking people back, right? Yeah. If there were an ideal age to start doing this kind of work so that people didn't have so much damage by the time we get to be adults, at what age? Like, do you do this with your children already? And if so, how old are they? Tell me about that.
My kids are 5 and 7. Oh, please talk about your children. Okay. My kids are 5 and 7. And I actually did a TikTok or a reel or something, I want to say last year or the year before, with my youngest. He was sitting on my lap and he said, Mummy, he was going through a phase where he was scared to go to bed. And so we talked about it as much as you can with a 3.5, 4-year-old. And he sat on my lap and he said, Mummy, can you do that tapping thing? And so we just went through the tapping thing for him, going, I'm brave. And he's gone, I'm brave. I'm like, of course you're brave. What else are you? I'm strong, Mummy. So he's coming out with the words, because on the way to school, my 7-year-old used to go, Mum, I'm scared of this and I don't want to go to school. And so we'd walk to school and I'd go, okay, mate. And I'd tap, because he wears a hoodie most days to school because my kids are weird. And so he's got his hands in his pocket. And I'm like, dude, if you've got your hands in your pocket and you are, worried about something, he's a highly sensitive little soul. And I said, look, your hands are in your pocket. So just tap on a knuckle. And when you tap on that knuckle, think of your I am statements. And he's gone, like what? I said, well, I am brave. I'm brave. I'm so brave. And if you just have to say that over and over, he's gone, you know what, Mum, I can do better. Okay, mate. And so we're walking to school and I'm tapping his little knuckle as we walk. And he's gone, I'm strong. I said, mate, you're so strong. And he's gone, I am the master of my universe. And I've gone, holy God, you're 6
Excellent.
years old and you've come out with that. So yeah, I work with my kids all the time, but I don't want them to get to adult stage and be a little,
Yeah, that's why I asked the question, right?
yeah,
Because oftentimes people ask me, well, what's the difference between a coach and a therapist? And my explanation is a therapist takes you back, right, to undo all the emotional damage. And as a coach, I believe I take you from where you are and move you forward. So I
I
agree with you.
find that
Go ahead.
if you take them at where they're at, but you leave the stuff in the background, that stuff can kind of, I call it festering. It can just fester a little bit. And then when the proverbial hits the fan, you go immediately back to your original programming. Because our experience teaches us our experience shapes us into who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we go back to that experience in the past and we reframe it, and so we can then sit there and go, oh, do you know what? That horrible experience when I was 4 years old and mum drove away from me because I wasn't ready on time and I tripped over a rock and split my leg, that made me feel unloved or uncared for or whatever. If I can go back to that and go, well, what did I learn? I learned that if I can do things faster and get ready more, then mum wouldn't have driven off on me. I learned that I'm strong enough to deal with a split lip without my mum, because she drove away to go shopping and I was supposed to go with her. It's not still an issue for me though, luckily. But if we can reframe it into a positive, what positive learnings can you take from that? And then we package that up and the experience is still there. We don't change your past.
Okay.
We reframe it so that when you look back on it, you can go, oh, I actually can learn some stuff from those experiences. It wasn't all bad.
Awesome.
Because then you've got that base to work from this moment forward on.
And tell us, Eileen, how do your clients find you?
My clients can find me. I am Eileen Rossall Empowering Mindset Coach on Facebook. If you type in @Eileen Empowering, you'll find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Fantastic. And as you'll see, all your information, everybody who's watching this on replay or you're watching
And
this
that's my
live.
website.
Come again?
And that's my website.
Yeah, we're running that across the bottom. In a minute, we're going to run Jonathan's, but I wanted to make sure that you had enough time to get it out. And tell us real quickly, who is your ideal client?
My ideal client, I work generally with women. 90% of my clients are women. About 80% of those women have just started their new businesses, but I don't specifically go into business women. They're women who have kind of woken up one day and gone, how did my life end up like this? Like, what the heck happened? And they're anxious and they're stressed and they have all the things going on and they've forgotten who they are because they don't take time out for themselves ever. So it's a process of rediscovering who they are and their purpose in life and just redefining what that self-care routine is, because it's not selfish to look after yourself.
No, not at all. You got to fill your cup first, right? Give to everybody else from your overflow.
Exactly right.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. How can people reach you? And we're going to put your across the bottom and tell us who your ideal client is.
Yeah, well, ideal client I'll cover first. I love the fact Eileen mentioned about you've got to deal with stuff from when you were young. It's to call it in therapy, inner child therapy. And interestingly, it's a very important section of shitnosis because it is key to doing stuff. So my ideal clients, anyone with a pulse. Oh no, flippantly aside, literally, my ideal client is to see nobody because I'm a lazy bugger now and I semi-retired 17 years ago. And my fees have gone up so much that even the celebrities who see me pay a fortune. And I tell them, don't come to me now that this book's been out a couple of months. I literally tell them, just go and buy the book. I don't want to see you. I don't need to see you. It is literal as that. As soon as somebody paid $17 for this book, them paying 500 quid sterling or £1,000 or £5,000, depending on what time slot they wanted with me. Because the truth is, there's nothing that I would do with them face to face that they can't do virtually through the QR codes that are inside the book. As for finding me, if you want to, when you've actually got the book off Amazon, and read it and changed your life, if you want to contact me to say, wow, thank you, then yeah, just find me on social medias as @Royle Hypnotist, ROYLE HYPNOTIST, or the web address that's going across the bottom's got links to all my different websites and stuff. If you're a therapist that wants to earn more money, go to ultimatehypnosiscourse.com, and that's where I've got the package that teaches you how I was able to retire 17 years ago, and how I actually have been the manager of many of the famous named television life coaches and hypnotists around the world and got them to where they are.
Fantastic. I tell you, you two are fun. I've had fun. I love what I do. I had fun today. I really appreciate that's been some amazing insight and information. If you're watching this on replay, reach out to these people, right? We could all use a good hypnotherapist. Me too. Okay, I admit it. Me too. Oh my goodness, we get to wrap up the show. You know, we're right up here at 3:30. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Jonathan. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
I wish you great blessings and continued huge success. And this has been the Carol's Courage to Confidence segment of the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show. Come back here next Wednesday. We're going to have more guests, but don't hesitate, right? Leaders get into action. Take action. Hire a coach, because I believe everybody gets to have a good coach. We're signing off for today. Go make it a great one.
The Intuitive Entrepreneur Show is hosted by Max and Janetta Jones and is brought to you by Life Coaching Today magazine, empowering your health, business, community, and life. This has been a production of True Awesome Life Productions, who asked, what does your true awesome life look like? Start that journey today at trueawesomelife.com. For more information on this or past episodes, go to theintuitiveentrepreneurshow.com.